This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Hello and welcome to Tracks from the Edge, Trek FM show in which we look at every episode of Star Trek and provide audio commentary for them. I'm Mike.
And I'm Max.
And today we're going to be providing audio commentary for Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 12, Through the Valley of Darkness.
That's what it's called. Through the Valley of Shadows?
Oh. One of these days I'll get these titles right. Can you imagine if it was back in the day and I was trying to figure out For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky?
Yeah, being a podcaster back in those days must have been tough.
It was, I imagine, rather difficult. I don't think there were all that many people who even took on the challenge.
Yeah.
Bunch of losers.
Yeah, they did not step up.
Nope. So, okay, before we get started, I want to play a game.
All right. Is it 3D chess? Do you know how to play that? Because I still don't.
No, I don't. Okay. That's not the game. The game that I want to play, which seems to be asked online quite a bit, is what does Max like?
It's a good question. I ask myself that on a regular basis.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out a, I don't know, topic or genre or medium, and then you're going to tell me something in that category that you like.
Okay.
And why.
All right.
Positivity Brigade here. All about the positivity.
Oh, that's going to be tricky. Okay. Let's see what happens.
Nothing but positivity here. Okay?
That's gonna be complicated.
Okay. So we'll start with I guess just to be on brand. What's a Star Trek episode that you like?
Oh, that's really hard. I like a ton of them.
Well, you don't need to name all of them. If you like a ton of them, then it should be really easy. Name one.
Evolution. All good things. Masks.
Did you hear that, everybody? He likes masks.
Yeah,
See?
That's right. Joe Minoski. What's up?
Okay. Why do you like masks?
Because it's bananas. It's the craziest thing that they could have possibly done in that show. I love that episode is so weird. I love how open they were to doing something that seemingly should break the reality of the series forever.
Okay.
And like it works. Like it's not so crazy that it isn't possible in this reality. So I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like we could why aren't there more things like this? Why aren't these shows more willing to go to these really weird places?
All right. Okay. Let's move on. What is a soft drink that you like?
I like a lot of soft drinks. I like Diet Fanta.
Okay.
Like,
which flavor? The grape
classic
or the
orange.
Orange. Okay. What do you like about Diet Orange Fanta?
Well, I mean, it's possible that it's just sort of holdover from when I was a kid and I would spend a lot of time overseas. And it was one drink that tasted consistent with my American palate, and I could get it there.
Okay. All right. That's fair. What is a Kevin Smith movie that you like?
Mallrats.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, I mean, it's solid. I mean, the story works. The characters are funny. It's work. It works. I mean, Clerks also. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I hate any of his movies.
You looking? Have you seen Yoga Hosers?
No.
Oh, okay. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
Okay. What is a comic book that you like?
I don't know. I mean, Watchmen, obviously. I've read that a bajillion times.
Yeah. Okay. Or why? Why?
Because it's perfect.
Okay. All right. And then let's wrap this up by bringing it back around to, full circle around to, this thing. What is a current television show which you like?
I suppose the answer that would work best for like a segue would be Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
And I do like it.
Okay. Why?
Well, I mean, even when it's like sloppy and, pieces are flying off the ship and you're kind of wondering, why is this ship? Why are we doing this? You can always go, well, I mean, honestly, it's doing what it can do. Like in the grand scheme of things, like the most noble thing that you can do is try your best. And I do think that these people are trying their best and they have good intentions and they are really good at it. Like they've just been sort of like, I honestly think most of the problems of the show are because they've boxed themselves into this really weird structure and format.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that was fun. Hopefully a little insight into, the perspective that we're coming at with this and all.
Mike is worried about alienating people.
Nah.
And I love it.
All right. So let's move on. This episode, Through the Valley of Shadows, was written by Erica Lapolte and Bo-Yeon Kim, who also wrote a couple of other things this season, including the Saru short trek. And last year they wrote, but I still consider to be the best episode of Discovery, the one where they do all the little micro jumps around the thing and, end up in the mirror universe. And it's directed by Doug Erniakowski, who directed all of the episodes that Kim and Lapolte wrote this season, which is kind of interesting. They've been a trio all season long, and we've talked a lot about Erniakowski. I'm really curious if we've ever pronounced his name right. But if you ever want to see him like in action as not a director but as an assistant director, there's this documentary called Full Tilt Boogie, where he's almost in essence like the main character because he's the guy who's like, kind of like running the set, right? And yelling at everyone to do what they're supposed to be doing and everything. So you can actually see him. It's a good documentary. It's about the making of From Dusk Till Dawn. Check it out. He really
comes off out of that movie like a hero.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what assistant directors are. But here's an interesting thing. If you look at the IMDb and you go through the credits of Picard show, he's listed as a co-executive producer, which, it's been, obviously revealed and discussed at great length that Hanali Culpepper is directing the first two episodes, which is really cool. But I think that given this credit, assuming it's accurate, and why wouldn't it be? I mean, what, some random person is just like, I'm going to put this credit, No, I'm sure it's accurate.
Yeah, there are a lot of credit pranks out there.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people do that, like James Cameron is directing, the series finale of Arrow, and it's like, okay, maybe that's a little, but like,
Well, where are you hearing the? Who?
I just made that up, but it was an extreme example. But it's something.
That's a crazy example.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think that this is a prank. I think that it's a real credit. And I think what it seems to imply in this world we live in, where producing credits can mean one of 10 billion things, I think what it seems to imply is that Ernie Akosky is the producing director on Picard's show. He's the Olatunde Osunsanmi of Picard. And I mean, in some ways that's cool because it's like, hey, based on what he was doing with the short treks and everything, it seemed like he was kind of like next in line, and it's like, oh, there's another show, and now he's getting his shot, and it's cool that they're, giving him that shot. And, I think we've expressed our love for this guy's work in the past on numerous occasions. He made the best,
sure did.
The best and always will be best Endgame movie in history, and Highlander
Past
Endgame.
and future.
Best and future. Yeah. If you use your time crystals, you'll see it's always, Anyway, and he also directed some cool stuff like Nurse. So that's cool. And I don't want to take anything away from him, but I do feel kind of disappointed that Picard show, which everyone keeps talking about being substantially different from Discovery, is being made by a bunch of people who worked on Discovery. I would like to see someone else's take on this stuff. And I know that 1 billion people have worked on Discovery already, but it would be cool if they got like someone else to do some of this stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
I know what you mean. I'm just not sure. Like, they're in their weird little universe now. They've got this CBS All Access reality. It's kind of like Netflix, where like a lot of people keep overlapping and popping up in other things.
Sure, and that's the way it works. But I just wish there was a little bit of expansion. It
would be cool if they brought in Brian Fuller.
Yeah, that would be neat. I'd like to see what he could do with Star Trek. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be an interesting take.
Yeah. Anyway, should we start this thing up?
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay. We're going 8 seconds in approximately to the episode, right after the CBS All Access logo or whatever other logo you happen to have. And if you're ready, Max. We should just note that this episode dropped less than 2 hours ago.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
This is super duper fresh for us. Super duper fresh.
Wildly different than how I always do this.
Yeah. So, if you're ready,
oh yeah,
we will start this up in 3, 2, 1, start. Previously on Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, this episode has it previously on, and also flashbacks to previous episodes in order to remind us of things that happened earlier.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cheat. It's the old Star Trek 6 director's cut thing going on there. But what can you do?
Complain about it on a podcast?
Okay, that's fair. You know what this episode doesn't have in it? Tilly.
Tilly. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
It is, but she's listed
They've
in the
got
credits.
everyone else.
Nah, they don't have Georgiou.
Okay, I mean, like, all of the characters on the ship that we don't see a lot, they seem to pop up in this episode.
Yeah, you got Linus, so I guess that makes up for it.
Yeah, and Tig is back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got so excited when she appears.
Yeah, that's a good question. Name stand-up comic who you like.
I can't pick Tig Notaro.
Well, that's what I thought you were going to pick, but
no,
never mind.
I could pick Tig Notaro.
It's the moment has passed. It's too late.
You know what? I'll go with Natasha Leggero.
Okay. So this is a cool little shot to start off with this thing. I think it's pretty clever, the transparent video screen, and it goes from Dr. Burnham's face to Commander Burnham's face, and it's pretty neat. Anyway, so here Burnham is talking to Amanda. Amanda gets to see both of her kids at the same time. That's cool. It's probably the first time in years that that's happened. I'm sure she got a kick out of that.
Well, I mean, it's not like she's in the room. I mean, I'm sure that she's seen both of her kids, like,
not at the same time.
I mean, if you take a picture of one and put an extra picture of the other one, boom, seeing both of her kids at the same time.
But to see her two kids together, I'm sure she got a kick out of that, right? No. Hey, I mean, this is a weird thing, and I mean,
once again, Spock is entering the room once the scene has begun. What is going on? Like, was this in his writer?
That's his thing. He's the Kramer of Discovery.
I don't understand why this is a thing that's happening on the show. This is weird, right? I'm not crazy. This is a weird trend that this show is doing.
I didn't think about it at all until you brought it up last week, but the fact that you brought it up last week and then it happened again just now, you're right.
It's weird, right? It's not like, it doesn't seem... I don't know. It's so I like, it doesn't seem to mean anything. It's just a thing that keeps happening over and over again. It's like, oh, we got to start this scene. Spock has to begin this scene, but he can't really be in the beginning. Okay, so we'll just have him enter the room once the scene starts. All right, yeah, that works. And then that happened thousands of times.
Yep. It's just this thing. That's what he's good at.
It's really weird.
Yeah. So, why doesn't Spock get a uniform? I mean, I know that he was like on leave and everything like that, and maybe he hasn't been, but I mean, he's like a legit member of this crew now, right? And I mean, Pike's got the cool Discovery uniform, and their security guard has the cool Discovery uniform. So, how come Spock doesn't get a Discovery uniform?
Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure if he is legitimately a member of the crew. I mean, it might be like a logistical thing, like you need to tell the computer like his crew ID number, and because he hasn't officially been transferred or like stationed on the ship, like the computer will not spit out a uniform for him.
Maybe, but I mean, like Burnham got a uniform.
Right, but that was because the captain at the time was like, all right, you're a member of my crew.
Okay, and but, like...
he put that into the computer.
Pike can't say that?
I suppose Pike could, but Pike is slightly more play by the rules kind of guy than the, actual, like, terrorist that was working in Starfleet for a season.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, Jason Isaacs, he's going to be at the Star Wars convention. I'm looking forward to seeing him there.
Ooh. Yeah. Is he in Star Wars now? I don't understand.
He is the voice of the big baddie in season 1 of Rebels.
Oh, got it. Lightsaber slingshot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good show. Check it out.
Nope.
So James Duff, credited as executive producer, it was, revealed that he came on when Berg and Harberts left as sort of like, Kurtzman's number one on the writing staff. And, I'm sure that he did have that role, but it's interesting just the way that things turned out or whatever. I mean, the next 2 episodes are written by Kurtzman, Lamet, and Paradise. So he didn't get a credit. He didn't get a writing credit, on Discovery, even though he was an executive producer. So now, of course, he's working on Picard show as well. By some guesses, which are rather well educated, he's the showrunner on Discovery, but
Discovery?
Picard show, whatever. It's all the same thing, right? I don't know. There's some sort of like documents on some sort of, I don't know if it's like a guild
Leaked
website
Section
or something.
31 documents that reveal that Discovery and Picard show are the same show?
Yeah, I think there's some like official like industry documents which say that the name of the Picard show is Destiny. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what it says. So whatever.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a deal breaker.
You'll no longer watch the Picard show if it's called Destiny?
It's got to be Picard show or no go.
Okay. All right.
It's either Picard show or it might as well be Locutus the Animated Series.
Oh, you're telling me you wouldn't watch that?
I would totally watch that. But they're not making it.
Oh, you never know these days. So, this is something which has bothered me all season long, and I couldn't figure out why. And today I just figured out why. I was like, I really like the Section 31 badge. I even own one. But I always thought that it looked weird on Tyler's uniform, and I couldn't figure out why. And today I just figured it out. It's because on everybody else's uniform, the color of the badge matches the color of the little stripes on their shoulders.
Yeah.
But Tyler's got bronze stripes and then the black and silver badge, so it doesn't match. So it's, it's like wearing.
It doesn't match. It's a clashing color.
Yeah, it's like wearing like a 1983 throwback Sox cap with like a current jersey.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you beat me to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those Sox cap situations.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, here's Laurel back. And she's got cool new earrings and stuff and hair.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she has hair. That's cool.
Yeah. And yeah, they're talking about this planet, which is the planet that their kid is living on. Babyhead.
Yeah, well, no, the whole baby.
Oh, I thought that was his name. I guess he doesn't have a name. Well, he does later on in the episode, but
he does.
Yeah.
Presumably he's had it for a while.
Yeah, because he's an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. They're debating who's going to go down to this planet and whether it would be safe or not. And Pike is like, I'm going to go down to that planet. Because
he's like, you guys can't go. I can go. Whatever. Why did it take a whole scene to figure this out?
Well, I think it was more about the interaction, It's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Yep. And this show is presumably going to end after 3 seasons?
That's my guess.
Okay.
When it happens, you heard it here first.
I don't disagree. I just think that you gotta pick a side. Either this show ends in 3 seasons, or Voyager is good.
What?
Yeah, those are the two sides.
Okay.
So we get to see the planet where time doesn't make sense in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's dumb.
Well, I needed to ask you about that because I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Well, maybe we'll have to elaborate on that because, we have gotten a number of comments online from people saying like, I have a better understanding of how the time travel works or doesn't work on the show after hearing you talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a service we can provide, perhaps.
Okay.
And I think it could be interesting.
Yeah. The thing of places where time doesn't obey the same laws, it pops up in fiction all over the place, and it's always very sloppy, because when you're dealing with like a magic universe where you could argue that the gods made the rules and the time and space work according to the rules that they imposed, then you could say that there's some sort of agency or intelligence behind these weird distortions of time and space. And in a universe like Star Trek, where presumably the laws of physics are consistent and there aren't places where an external force is going all right, I think it would be cool if this room went at this speed and this room went at a different speed, because you can't really do that in a world where the laws of physics are consistent. And if this guy has grown to adulthood and Pike is able to navigate this entire building, then presumably there are places where time is accelerated. And you'd think that, once again, time moving at inconsistent rates throughout an environment, you would die. You wouldn't survive that. You'd be torn to pieces. It doesn't work. It's nonsense.
But how much of it is that, and how much of it is... Because he says, time, all time exists here simultaneously or whatever. So, how much of it is just maybe there is a baby version of him here now too. Not he goes into another room and it, goes faster or slower, but you know.
So the future and the past exist simultaneously in this place.
Yeah.
Right? But we also know that there are alternate timelines.
Mm-hmm.
So how can the future and the past exist in the same space?
Well, that's my question.
In a universe with alternate timelines.
Yeah.
That's a question. It wasn't rhetorical. How can that work?
But we've seen that throughout the history of Star Trek too, right?
Homie, I'm asking a question. How does that work?
Yeah, okay. But I mean, this isn't the first time.
Okay, so you're not going to answer the question.
Well, you expect me to answer the question. I can't answer the question. I have that question too. So, but I mean, that is something. I mean, that's not the first time that you've asked that question while watching Star Trek, is it?
No, I've asked that question a lot of times, and very often I find that the answer that the shows give is dumb. And I find it annoying. The thing is, if you take an individual episode and say, okay, let's say that there are no alternate timelines in this universe, just for the duration of this episode, does it work? And sometimes, yes. Sometimes it does. And if you were to say, does this episode work if we ignore that we know that there are alternate timelines in this universe? If we ignore that, does the idea of a building where, a kid is brought into the room and then that kid grows up for several years and then he's standing in the hallway and somebody from the distant past, presumably from his distant past, but because that door at that moment in his time is connected to a different point in the past. So Captain Pike from the past walks in and is like, hey, who are you? And he's like, I'm that dude's son. And he's like, what? You're all grown up. And he's like, yeah, whatever, deal with it. And they go, all right, well, I guess we're going to look for this crystal and see if you can handle it. And they walk around the building and they find the crystal. And he's like, all right, here's the crystal. And then he's like, okay, here's the thing though. If you take the crystal, then the timeline that you live in the future is going to be the one that you see when you hold that crystal. And Pike is like, I guess I got to deal with it. Okay, no, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. How can there be alternate timelines based on these crystals when the reality of this space shows that the past and the future are all set. He can't be in that building as a grown-up and as a little baby simultaneously, in a universe where you can determine alternate futures based on whether or not you hold a crystal.
Okay. All right. I don't quite understand all that, but hopefully.
Imagine the building in 2 dimensions. Imagine it like a page of a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
At the top left, you've got the earliest point in time.
Right.
And the bottom right, you've got the latest point in time.
Yeah.
If somebody gets into an elevator at the bottom of the page and goes all the way up to the top of the page, then they will exit earlier in time.
Yeah. Okay.
And they walk downstairs and they will run into themselves when they reach the bottom of the page, getting into the elevator. But it's a comic book. It doesn't change. So the first panel is still the first panel when you read it a second time. So everything has to be consistent. Anyone moving throughout that space has to make sense when you read the entire thing in sequence and when you read it in the sequence of the individual's experience.
Okay.
This doesn't work when you try that. It falls apart.
Okay. All right. Okay, but now say like this thing here where the
Nope.
plants are growing. Right? The plants are growing real quickly, but like the people watching the plants are not aging quickly. So how does that work?
Bro, this is an audio podcast, so you can't see the look on my face of, I don't even, what? Oh, God, no. It's dumb. Presumably, for a small pocket of time, like the space that was surrounding that tree was significantly altered, so the time passed very quickly for it. But the thing is, it's being fed by the environment, like the air and light it's exposed to, and it would die real fast if it wasn't getting the light and the air that it needs in order to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this tree not dying? Presumably it must be receiving the air and light from different points in time, but we're able to see it. So why are we able to see it if it's receiving light from different points in time? Why is light bouncing off of that tree and hitting our virtual cameras and Pike's retinas when it's being exposed to light from different points in time? How is it bouncing? How is it absorbing light from a different point in time and space when it is bouncing light off of the current time and space? Dumb.
Okay. All right. But I guess here's the other question for you. Does it work as a metaphor?
No.
Okay.
What is the metaphor?
I don't know. Time is the fire in which we burn.
No. Look, if you want to say there are ways of making the metaphor of time travel and a place outside of time work, and those metaphors relate to basically, you can do it in different ways, but like the simplest example would be like if we're talking about a school where patterns of the universe, the way that history progresses, the way people interact, the ways in which we understand things allow us to know the past and the future and ourselves. That could be a place that exists outside of time, metaphorically speaking. It's not a place where you can get dope jewelry made of crystals.
Okay. All right.
That does not work.
Okay. So, in our discussion of time travel, we missed a few things which were on screen, which are noteworthy. First and foremost, we missed Linus, who
you always got to bring up Linus.
He's the best, right?
Yeah. He's very endearing. I'll tell you that. I'll give you that much. He's very likable.
The game that they were playing seems like really, really hard, and I'm not sure that it completely Well, I don't know.
I watched that, and my first reaction was, this would cause fights.
Well, it's just like it seems like if I'm understanding it correctly, so it's like words which mean opposite things, right?
Yeah, words which mean both what they mean and also the opposite of what they mean.
Okay. So I can see like oversight. But I mean, is that really what it means and the opposite of what it means?
Well, in context, it can.
I mean, because that's the thing.
That's the thing.
And here's the thing. It's like he says oversight and everyone's like, oh, good one. And I'm like, oversight. And then like I spend the next 5 minutes like trying to think about the various definitions of oversight and whether or not they are opposites, right?
Yeah, my reaction was, okay, kinda, bro.
Okay, here's one that I have, which may not apply. I always assumed that I was just misunderstanding the way that it was used in, like math or whatever. But acute, right? Like an acute angle is like a angle less than 90 degrees, so it's like a small thing, but like acute when in reference to like, let's say a disease means like it's like really a really severe case thing. No?
Well, like isolated to like a small point, like a spike on a graph, a rapid like infection, sudden influx of pain. Like it's a small thing. It's a confined thing in time. An acute infection is like it got bad fast.
But like there was the whole thing about it like escalating quickly, it being larger than no. Okay, see, so then I misunderstood that. So never mind. Okay, yeah, I would be terrible at that game. But anyway, Linus is good at that game, which is just one more.
Well, I would never thought
awesome.
of acute. That's surprising.
I mean, it was just something that I thought of because I just watched a movie where they were, which I talk about on another podcast, where they say that like a character has blank spots in his memory because of acute anxiety. But I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, moving on.
Okay.
We also saw that the son of these two here is played by Kenneth Mitchell, which he's like the Jeffrey Combs of Discovery, right? He played the guy with the paint on his face in season 1. Then he played that dude's dad in season 2, and it's like, okay, fine, that makes sense. But now here, he's just playing like random Klingon number 3, and it's like immediately I'm like, that's him, because his performance is very noticeable. Even though you can't see him underneath the makeup, you can tell that it's him. And my two thoughts on that are, maybe he shouldn't be playing all of the Klingons, because now, I mean, it is kind of like Armin Shimmerman playing a bunch of Ferengi, or,
I call that the Ferengi situation.
Yeah. But at the same time, I also feel like maybe one of the reasons why they keep on getting him, and here he's back on screen now, so we're on topic. One of the reasons why they keep on casting him, aside from the fact that everyone who works on the show seems to love him, is the fact that like he's really good at playing a Klingon, and he's got like sort of a very like alien approach to it, and he has like a very, it seems like, strong grasp on the Klingon dialogue and all the rest of it, and his mannerisms. Like he's developed like an alien character, and part of me thinks that the reason why they keep on casting him is because they're like, he has Klingon like as a species down, right? So it's like, yes, he seems like the same person to us because we've only seen a few people play Klingons, but the fact of the matter is like if you were watching like a show which starred a bunch of Klingons, they'd all be acting and talking like this, because that's sort of like what Klingons do. That's their mannerisms and everything like that. That's sort of like the alien species that they've developed. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I know what you mean. You're doing similar work to what I do on a regular basis while watching almost anything. You're like, all right, so here, this same guy. Maybe there's a way. Maybe
no, but
maybe
I mean,
there's just a lot of guys like this.
Okay, so now we're moving into Pike seeing his future, and us seeing one of the key moments in the history of Pike, the character.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about all this?
I mean, aside from the visual inconsistencies, it seems to check out.
Like I thought it was really cool that we sort of got to see this defining moment, but the other two things which I thought were really cool. One, I love how the uniform, even though it's different, really sort of mirrors what we see Pike wear in the Kelvin movies, but also this scene right here, where you see the close up of him, and then in the background, in that anamorphic, distorted, out of focus, you see like the wheelchair like come up in the background. That's like haunting, right? I mean, this is like really well done. I don't know.
I can tell you, my reaction was, "Oh, are we really doing this?"
I think it works. I think it works.
Oh, we're really doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. To me, it works. And I think that it's interesting. I mean, for one thing, I think it's weird that and it is very Star Trek, doing that thing where it's like, oh, this character was in literally 3 episodes, 2 of which were arguably the same. And, and he has like 1, or 2, really, really defining moments, right? Like the fact that, he was in this accident. And now that we have an entire series or season where we can flesh out this character, well, we're going to show that one defining moment, which was only talked about before.
It's actually like, when I saw that, I thought, this is real. This is real fan fiction.
Yes, that is real fan fiction-y for sure. For sure.
I was a little disappointed that when he saw his future self, like, they didn't have any interaction. Like, presumably he's literally seeing his own future, and presumably his future self is literally seeing him.
I don't think so, right?
I mean, why not use the opportunity? Why not have his future self like go beep 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 beep, and Pike gets back and he's like, I don't even know what that meant. I'll translate it, and they translates it, and he's like, oh, he just said I was stupid.
I mean,
I guess because I chose this future.
Well,
that checks out.
I mean, he didn't choose it, right? I mean, this is he picked up the crystal and then said, okay. I mean, right? They weren't saying like, is this future good enough for you, or do you want to grab this crystal over here? You want to see which future this is, and this one, someone gives you like a lot like everyone else eel,
was like,
and then
this crystal is yours, presumably because he knows that Pike goes into that building and gets that crystal, because later on he goes up to his past self when he was a kid, and he's like, hey, this guy from Starfleet showed up, and I showed him this crystal, and he took it. and his kid self is like, which one? And he's like, the one that was right there. And he's like, what? He took it? Yeah. So it's just gone. That doesn't happen a lot. It's worth talking about at the cafeteria with your past self. And his past self is like, okay, all right, so I guess he took that crystal. And then when Pike shows up, he's like, oh my God, I totally know this was going to happen. Here's the crystal that you take.
I mean, that's speculation, right?
You have a better explanation for why he's like, this one, not any of the other hundreds of crystals. This one that looks exactly the same as all of them.
Maybe he's just pretending like he actually knows which one to take, and maybe he's like, this one.
You think he just like does this to people when they come in? He's like, I'm Tavanik.
I mean,
some other person you don't know.
No. I mean, it's like one of those things like they say about like when you're in command situations or whatever, where like directors talk about this, and I'm sure it's true for Starfleet captains as well, and also people who are in charge of time crystals. Like, if someone asks you a question, you answer with authority, even if you're not 100% positive of the answer. Right, because
I do that all the time. I'm like, I don't know.
But I'm just saying, like, Pike is like, which crystal is it? And
no, it doesn't work. It's
okay,
dumb.
Okay,
if he's just responding with confidence that it's this random one over here in the corner, not any of the ones that we passed along the way.
But I guess now
dumb.
Here's the question, right? I mean, because I guess knowing his future doesn't necessarily change it, right? But it could influence his actions. And I think that's what we see in the last scene, right? Where he's like, let's blow up the ship, because he knows that he's not going to be on that, right?
I mean, I don't think that Pike is now thinking, I'm immortal. I know where and approximately when I will die. I just need to never be in engineering and I can never die.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to work out great. I don't think he's thinking that. I think he's thinking, I wonder if that is precisely my future. Presumably something similar. Presumably that was pretty close. Also, we don't know how much he clearly remembers.
Mm-hmm.
It might get real fuzzy afterwards, like remembering a dream.
That could be, That could be.
So there are ways of justifying it. I don't think that he's thinking, I don't die here.
I mean, you talk about it being like fan fiction-y and the idea that like, yes, this is something that people want to see, right? I mean, like that was the moment in this whole episode where I was like, oh man, like I'm really curious like how this plays out. And it's sort of irregardless of what's going on in the episode itself, right?
Really?
What?
Listeners will be on my side.
Okay. I don't know what that means. But my point being, like, why not do that as a short trek? Like, I mean, okay, so they're doing this as like a thing and they're tying it into the plot, but presumably that was, who knows, chicken and egg scenarios and whatever. But like, what's to stop them at this point from just saying like, we're going to do a short trek where you see what happens to Pike with his accident,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying you could do it that way now. Regardless.
That's presuming that would be an interesting story.
I mean, I think it would be interesting. Did you not find it interesting when you saw that stuff?
I did not.
Okay. All right. So here we have this guy who is in this random episode. Well, I mean, the first episode of the show that
that random one,
but that we don't remember. Who they do a little Star Trek 6 flashback thingy too, mm-hmm. And he's now been controlled, and he's doing his thing.
Yeah, I was a little bit annoyed at how surprised she was.
Mm-hmm.
Like neither of them was suspicious. Like, hey, the AI is turning people into Terminators. Can we do several checks? Like, let's just stab him a little,
mm-hmm.
just to see if everything looks right.
Yeah,
but no, they don't. They're just like, Oh, a random guy in space. He's barely alive. I'm sure that's fine.
Well, I mean, but I think that, one of the reasons why they chose this guy was because they were trying to play off of Burnham's emotions, right?
Yeah. That doesn't seem suspicious at all.
It's one of those things where it's like, oh man, what a weird coincidence. But, I don't know.
No, I think I think it was silly that she wasn't suspicious at all.
Okay. All right.
Because I was immediately suspicious.
Yeah, but
then she recognized him, and I was like, "Oh, that guy's definitely been turned into a robot man."
But you're like watching the show, right?
Yeah, and she's living it. She hasn't seen this guy in a really long time, and the one person who survived the control, like killing everyone on a ship, is someone that she knows. Be a little bit suspicious. That is some really sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't quite get why Control would be so bad with a phaser.
Yeah. I was just watching the subtitles and it said, "Oh," and then in parentheses it said "pants." And it took me a minute to realize that she was panting. I thought they were just saying like, "Oh, pants." Like, "Oh, shirt."
You know how subtitles occasionally reference what people are wearing for the people who are hearing and vision impaired, but can somehow read subtitles.
I just thought it was weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, Spock trying the Vulcan neck pinch and not working because he doesn't have nerve endings. And he just like broke Spock's arm there. That must have hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure it hurts. This is okay. Earlier I mentioned an episode that involves from Next Generation that involves nanites.
Yeah,
and they react to the discovery that the nanites reproduced and have infected the entire ship with shock. Like, whoa, can that happen? Is that possible? Star Trek, like almost 100 years earlier, seems really comfortable with the idea that happens a lot.
Well, maybe it's just because we're comfortable with the idea of nanites now and we weren't back in the 80s. I remember when I first saw that episode and I'm like,
yeah, guy, I know how
microscopic
time works.
Robots. That's so weird. Right?
No. I mean, it had been in science fiction for a while at that point.
It's the first time that I had ever heard about it. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not quite sure why like increasing the magnetism of the floor would stop them completely. It seems like that would only slow them down a bit.
I don't know. Oh, so there you can see Spock holding up his arm because it's broken, right? And it's interesting because they don't really call it out. He's just there holding up the arm.
Yeah, I wonder if the suit is actually holding up his arm for him.
Maybe. I suppose it could do that, right?
Because I thought like that would be a smart thing to do with your exosuits. If like a part of your body is broken, like the suit could actually hold the bone in position.
Do you think you could do the type of thing where like if you passed out, like the suit could get up and like walk you out of the room and into sickbay?
I think that's possible.
It's interesting.
I don't know if these suits could do that.
Yeah. So I'm right in thinking that the first time we ever heard of time crystals was the episode with Mud, right? Like that's not anywhere else in the canon?
I'm not sure, but they're a real thing.
Are they?
Yeah, they're a real thing. Time crystals are real
Oh,
things. They're
and
not
I guess
like,
those are the things that we see floating around in the opening sequence, right? We didn't see those last season, did we?
no, they were in last season.
Okay.
I at the time I assumed that they were like dilithium crystals,
Yeah.
but like if they're time crystals, that's fine. Time crystals are real. They don't look like that. They don't repeat in space. They repeat in time. Like they don't. They're not. It's not like it's depicted here, where like they're incredibly rare, mysterious things. They're like they can be made in a lab.
Okay. And what do they do?
Sort of like how on Breaking Bad, like there are chemicals that are really hard to find that in reality can be made in a high school lab.
Okay. So what do time crystals do?
Not much. They don't. They're not like they're not. They don't have any special properties aside from them being a different sort of crystal. They're not like they're not the same sort of like crystal structure. They repeat in time, not in space.
So how does that work? Do they time travel? What do they do? What is it that they're doing?
They don't time travel. It's like a moving crystal. It's like a crystal that changes shape in order to like be like a consistent crystalline structure through time, not through space. So they don't look like crystals that we would see. They're unstable things. They're you can't really like you couldn't pick one out of like a little crystal nest and then bring it back to your ship and power a time machine with it. That's not how it works at all. But time crystals exist.
Okay. I still don't understand them. What makes them time crystals?
Because they're I haven't made any time crystals. I understand like in a basic abstract sense the idea of time crystals.
Okay, a time crystal or space-time crystal is a structure that repeats in time as well as in space. Normal three-dimensional crystals have a repeating pattern in space, but remain unchanged as time passes. Time crystals repeat themselves in time as well, leading the crystal to change from moment to moment. I guess you just said that, but when you said it, I just assumed you were making it up, so I wasn't really listening.
Okay. Well, I mean, I didn't describe it that well. I was like kind of basing it on my memory of how time crystals function.
Okay. All right.
That was a very concise description.
So they don't allow you to time travel, and if you pick one up, you don't see your future?
No, much like regular crystals that we see in the world, they have no special properties and can heal no diseases.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So here's where Pike is making his decision. And, in a lot of ways, this sort of feels like, the cliffhanger, which is going to lead to the big finale. And in a lot of ways, even though we have 2 episodes left, I think that's what it is, because if you look at it, originally the season was supposed to be 13 episodes long. And if you look at the last 2 episodes, they're both written by Kurtzman, Paradise, and Lumet, and they're both directed by Osun Sanmi. So I'm just basing this on nothing other than all of that stuff which I just said, but I kind of feel like this is their grave danger, that episode of CSI where that Tarantino directed, where it was supposed to be 1 episode, and they were like...
Yeah, it's a classic grave danger situation.
It was supposed to be 1 episode, and basically when they were editing it, they were like, oh, this episode's a lot longer than we anticipated. In fact, it's so long that instead of cutting half of it out, why don't we just make it 2 episodes? And that's what they did.
Yeah, classic grave danger situation. You guys get it.
Yeah, you get it. You get it. Anyway, I'm looking forward to next week. I think it'll be cool. Kurtzman back writing Star Trek. Like almost 10 years to the month that he changed the world with Star Trek 2009. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. He's got a lot of things to make amends for. The next week on, this time was the first time that I watched one of those and was like, what?
There's a lot.
What is all that?
There's a lot going on in it, right?
Nothing seems to be like clearly happening. It's like a bunch of stuff is moving around. The Enterprise is there. There's explosions. Like I have no idea what's happening in that next week on.
Yeah. Anyway, be sure to check out our Discovery coverage throughout the week. There's Live from the Edge with Bruce and Brandy. There's Postcards from the Edge with Amy. There's the main show with Patrick. And then there's Notes from the Edge with Chris. And then, of course, there's Tracks from the Edge with us. You'll find all of these in the main feed for the Edge or in the Trek FM master feed. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Discovery. The best place to do that is in the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook, where Amy Nelson will collect your feedback for Postcards from the Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at Trek FM or send us email using the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and choose the Edge. We'd like to thank our associate producers today, Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoab Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, Cornelia Reutner, Ryan Malett, and Brian Maloche. Thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate your support. If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an AP yourself, visit patreon.com/trekfm for all the details. All right, well, that's it for this week. Next week, big 2-hour finale. Well, no, actually not. That was just big 2-hour finale spread out over 2 weeks. But whatever. We're getting close.
What?
It doesn't matter.
That was a really weird way of saying that.
It's late. I'm tired.
Yeah, why don't you get some sleep? It'll take the edge off.